Welcome everyone to MRM Sports. It's the review show for game week 11. The game week with certainly the fewest goals in recent memory, man. I think it was only 15 goals scored. The highest goal scoring matches to be the Fulham versus Bournemouth match, which ended in a 2-2 draw. I think other than that, overall, I mean, there were a few goals. Game week full of action, full of definitely controversial topics, controversial moments, some weird VAR calls, some debates about VAR and the refereeing overall. But then nonetheless, there were a few goals, man. But yeah, we keep it moving, let's quickly jump on to the results, man. The huge results. Let me start with the big one, the highlight match of the weekend, which was the Liverpool versus Manchester City one at Anfield, which ended up in a 1-0 win for Liverpool against City, which was a massive win for Liverpool. Let me just go through the results and then we get into the matches. Liverpool won 1-0, as I've said. It all kicked off on a Friday. Brentford defeating Brighton 2-0 with Ivan Toney with 2 goals. And then Saturday, Wolves and Crystal Palace played to 0-0 draw. And then Fulham and Bournemouth shared the Spurs again in a 2-2 draw. Then Wolves managed to defeat Nottingham Forest 1-0. Spurs victors against Everton with a 2-0 win. And then the Sunday matches we had Aston Villa losing 2-0 to Chelsea at home. Leeds losing 1-0 to Arsenal at home. What a weird game. There was a power shortage in the VAR track or something, man. It was so weird. And then Manchester United playing to a 0-0 draw against Newcastle. A very impressive victory, very impressive point for Newcastle away from home. Then with Southampton versus West Ham ended in a 1-0 draw, and the big one, of course, Liverpool defeating Manchester City 1-0. Let's jump into that game, man. What a game! What a game of football. I think for the first time this season, Liverpool actually stood up to the challenge. Even though City just edged it in terms of being a better team, it was an evenly matched game. I can say that. It was a bit weird to see Pep go with Gundogan and Gundogan, Rodri, and Bernardo Silva in the midfield, and then pushing pushing De Bruyne as a winger. But then if during the game at some point City played as if it was a three-man defense, like maybe a 3-5-2 or something along those lines. And then, of course, Pep will always game manage, and he managed to change it during the game to a back four, again to a back three. Cancelo, I think the first 20, 30, 40 minutes of the match, Cancelo was quite high, was playing as a wing back, basically. It was weird because I didn't see Gundogan starting this game in the midfield. I thought maybe Pep would go with Foden, Sterling, and Mahrez up front, or Grealish, Foden, Mahrez up front. I think for me that would have been a bit more deadly. Or maybe just wanted to ensure that he controls the midfield with Gundogan and Rodri and Bernardo Silva there. But then nonetheless, man, let's jump into the talking points. Was that a goal for City? A part of me thinks it is a goal. Like, the ref, I think for now, let's just talk about the ref. I think if you're a Chelsea fan, right, you have to now see. If you're another fan of another club and you're a Chelsea fan, I think when you talk about the referee Anthony, I think now your voice carries more weight, because this was the biggest game and the refereeing there was just so weird. It was so poor. The officiating in the Premier League, I'm glad now that it's no longer screwing Chelsea alone, because for me, I think that was a goal for City. If the ref plays, lets the play flow, what's the point of then if they score, you come back and give a foul? Because if they don't score, you don't give a foul. So why in the first place, if you feel like it was a foul on Fabinho, why do you feel like you have to bring it back? And it was the second phase of the game for me. I think it was the second phase of the game. Liverpool still had a chance to defend that goal, And again, like I listened to Klopp's post-match interview, and he said it was a foul on Fabinho, foul on Alisson. That one again is debatable. I thought, for me, when it went to VAR, I genuinely thought they were going to look at that foul on Alisson. But then to bring it back to the shed pull on Fabinho, man, I think you could see Pep was incensed with that decision. You could see even mockingly asking the Liverpool crowds to cheer him on and stuff. And it did say, which is a shameful thing, it did say they started throwing coins at him and stuff. But then nonetheless, man, that was a debatable moment. And trust me, I think Pep will be boiling and fuming about the refereeing. And the Premier League has to look at this referee. Anthony, I remember when, beginning of the season, when Tuchel said every Chelsea player knows and every Chelsea supporter knows that this referee is a thing for us. And then Tuchel was fine for it. But now, for me, I think it is clear. The Premier League has to do something. They shouldn't give Anthony any big game. They shouldn't give him any big game. I think he has to try and get his refereeing skills back up again against, okay, there's no small team in the Premier League, but then maybe against the average sides. Because you can't mess up the biggest game of the weekend. And you have the managers fuming about the refereeing decisions. I mean, so many chances were let go, man. But let's talk about the football. I think what we learned about this game is City are a very, very good side. Even though they didn't create much chances, I think it only took a mistake from City for Liverpool to score. I think Cancelo had a nightmarish game. He stepped up to Salah when he wasn't supposed to step up. Because as soon as he missed the challenge, there was no way anyone would catch Salah. And then in 1v1, I think Salah scoring the hat-trick in the Champions League, that 1v1 gave him the confidence to actually, slot that ball in. I mean, it was a beautiful game to watch. As a neutral, I really enjoyed the game. Even though the referee did disappoint me at some point. If you're going to let the game be full of tackles and stuff, and let fouls run through, then don't call it back when you feel like, okay, it's a goal scored. If I don't give that foul, it'll be contagious. Because now he's created a whole scenario for himself. And the Premier League has to review his performances as of late. I mean, the Chelsea versus Spurs game, he did the same thing. Now, it was the game of the weekend that time. Now it's another game of the weekend. They gave him the match to officiate, and he's also screwed it up, man. But nonetheless, that was a beautiful, beautiful game to watch. An important victory for Liverpool. Does it mean Liverpool are back in the title race? For me, I would say at the moment, I don't want to rule them out, but then they still have a long way to go. Because in as much as City lost the game and are 4 points behind Arsenal, you still feel like City can cover those 4 points. Will Liverpool cover that gap? I mean, now that they have to first of all try and get to the top 4. And if we go to the World Cup with them still 6, 7, 8 points behind the top 4, then you have to say they're not in the title race anymore. But nonetheless, that was a huge game. And then the next game, I'm going to talk about the Leeds versus Arsenal match. I mean, what a wait for them. At some point, I thought they might just call off the whole match. But then they managed to, I think players would wait for 30 minutes. They're fixing some electrical faults with the VAR team and stuff. It was so weird to see, man, in the Premier League, biggest stage of them all, that such things can happen. And games can be delayed because of that. And I wonder what does that do to the psychology of the players. I mean, you call them with the game plan and then you have to wait for 30 minutes. You have to come back and train again, just warm up again so that you don't get any muscle injuries when the game restarts. That was a weird thing to see, man. And if you're a supporter in the ground, I mean, you've come to watch the biggest game and now you're having to wait. But nonetheless, man, that was an important victory for Arsenal. I think this Arsenal team is showing that they have the remember what's his name, the former Wolves player, former Watford player, when he talked about the corners. I mean, the Arsenal team is showing that they are capable of hanging matches. I mean, at some point, Leeds had a penalty missed. I mean, anything could have happened. Anything wrong could have happened for Arsenal in that game. But everything good did happen for them. I mean, Leeds missing the penalty, Saka stepping up with a goal, and Arsenal getting the 3 points. Now they've opened a breather between them and City. In as much as I still feel like they can't afford to draw points, at least if they lose a game or if they draw a game, City doesn't outrightly overtake them. City has to try and cut the point gap between them and Arsenal, man. But that was an important victory for Arsenal. I think Arteta, for me, is buzzing, and you might see him win the Manager of the Month award again, because for him to be winning he has defeated Liverpool, he defeated Spurs, he has won an away match where the previous seasons Arsenal would have definitely drawn that game, would have definitely even lost that game if they'd relaxed, really. For Arteta to continue grinding something out of these players, for these players to show the hunger to win every game. Now it's no longer just to get a point, but the hunger to outrightly win every game. I think this is quite important for Arsenal, man. They still remain top, and it's starting to look scary now because Arsenal are top. But as a Chelsea fan, I won't be biased towards my team or unbiased towards Arsenal. But then at some point last season it did look like we're title contenders, and then we slowly faded away. So now it's interesting to see how Arsenal keep up that pace, because now everyone is now anticipating for a time when Arsenal will continue to fade away. Because if you remember your football very well, the last seasons of Wenger, really, Arsenal would start strongly and then slowly fade away, and then eventually finish fourth or side of battle for a top 4 spot. So now it's interesting to see. Everyone, I think, is anticipating a time when Arsenal will start to show those signs and start to fade away, man. And then we talk about the Spurs versus Everton. Spurs were 2 home winners against Everton. Everton had like two clear-cut chances where the players, I remember the Damare clear chance where he just hit it over bar, man. I think Everton are showing against these big teams that they lack quality. Because even against United, they had a clear-cut chance. They could have gotten a draw out of that game. But then you saw that because they lack the top quality, they lost the game. Again, against Spurs, them lacking that top quality meant that they're losing. They lost the game again. But nonetheless, man, Spurs are a grinding team, as you saw. They're a hustling team, as you've seen throughout the whole season. And Conte, in as much as I don't think they would win the title, but they are staying in it. They are staying. They're winning games they have to win. They're managing this to avoid these draws, really, because against Brighton last time around, they could have easily got a draw. So they're losing the games that you expect them to lose, and they're winning the games that you expect them to win. And even if they're not playing the prettiest football, they are still playing football. They are still getting the results done, because it is a result-based sport, and they are getting the job done with these results. So for Spurs and Kane, I think it's important for them to stick with the top 2 teams, with City and Arsenal. And if anything happens, imagine if Arsenal has hit by a series of injuries to crucial players, and City does the same. We would expect Spurs to step up and steal the moment and try to maintain the top spot. So again, I would expect, for me, Spurs will finish in the top 3 already. So I think for them, it's now about hoping those 2 teams drop points and they overtake and actually get more points on the board. And maybe for them, this is the time Spurs will break the curse and win the Premier League for the first time in over 30 years, I think. Yeah. And then let's talk about Chelsea and Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa will put Chelsea under serious pressure. That was a scary game to watch if you're a Chelsea fan like me. That was a really scary game to watch in terms of Aston Villa really came guns blazing. Kepa had one of the best games of his life in a Chelsea shirt. He pulled off saves. Do you remember when Mendy came in and was keeping us in the game? I remember against, was it Sheffield United, where I think we won 1-0, and Mendy did an absolutely massive game for us. He kept on putting save after save. Kepa had a similar game. There was that Danny Ings header. I think the old Kepa that was going in, it was going to be 1-1, but then Kepa kept Chelsea in the game. You could see Chelsea struggle throughout the pitch, man. Opa substituted in the 56th minute. The chances were non-existent for Chelsea. But then, I think for the first time under Graham Potter, we didn't play well. And for us to get a 2 massive victory, 2-0 victory away from home, it shows that the team now has that belief, that fighting spirit. And let's just say, man, for Mount, especially the free kick, that was a stunningly beautiful goal, man. That was although Martinez could have done better if an Aston Villa fan, but other than that, Mounted, I think he got the man of the match award. Although I personally would have gave it to Kepa. In as much as goals wins matches, I think those key saves Kepa made kept us in the game for us to win that game. And for Mount to score that brilliant free kick, man, that is brilliant free kick. And you can see Mount is picking up his form now. At some point, he was getting assist alone. It's good to see that he scored 2 goals which have won us the game, really. And he's cementing that place in the starting 11 for him. No one can argue for Mount to be dropped now. If you're a Pulisic or a Ziyech or whoever, you can't say Mount deserves to be on the bench. Mount is stepping up. He's showing his value and worth to the team. And he's adding assists and goals to his game now, which is a beautiful thing to see. And then, if you're an Aston Villa fan, man, I think you have to worry about Gerrard. Gerrard, He's getting a little from the squad, from the amount of talent he has. I think the results is getting best versus the talent he has is really underwhelming. Although they did play well against Chelsea, they were definitely supposed to bear at least 1 chance they created. But nonetheless, man, I think Gerrard will still be working on a tightrope. Although, really, we would have expected Gerrard to lose this game. So there's not much you can accuse Gerrard of against Chelsea. But then, I think the next games, if he's playing team, you expect Aston Villa to actually have a go at and get points away from, and he doesn't get points from those games, then you question Gerrard. But yeah, it was a good away victory for Chelsea. I think Chelsea creating some daylight between them and Manchester United, and trying to cement that top 4 position. I mean, again, like Chelsea, like Spurs, if any of the top 3 teams continuously drop points or get key injuries to key players, I think Chelsea should be there to pass on to even try and finish third in the league. I think we have enough squad depth and talent to fight for top 3 position. Or if Liverpool or if City or Arsenal drop points drastically, then we have enough points again to try and fight. Enough players, enough quality to try and get into the top 2 or dare dream and say finish first, but I doubt that's unlikely for us to win the title. But nonetheless, man, I think we need to cement the top 4 spot versus Manchester City, Manchester United, and Liverpool. For me, we have to try and finish top 4 in the Premier League. And then, of course, the Manchester United versus Newcastle. That was an important away point for Newcastle. I think it was the first point in Old Trafford in so many years, man. I don't remember a time. I think the last time, no. Against Mourinho didn't get a point. They ended up losing that game. I remember when Sanchez scored the last minute winner. I think this point for Newcastle shows where they are as a club. I think it shows the belief which is there. It shows how the season might be a positive season for them, because they've already picked a point against both Manchester clubs. They've got a point against City. They've got a point against United, which was a massive point for them. Massive point at how. And if a United fan, I think other than everything, you have to worry about the way United are missing in front of goal. Like, United got clear chances, or maybe they fell to the wrong people. Was the Ronaldo goal supposed to be called? Again, debatable. But then the chances Fred missed when Rashford rounded the keeper and posed it back to him. We expected the net to just buckle in and United's fans to celebrate. But then they missed. And again, Rashford missed a clear-cut chance header for me. So, and we saw similar traits really against Omonia in the Europa League. So is this now a trend for United for them to create chances and miss chances? Or it's just a rough spell for them? At least we can say they're creating chances. We expect them to bury chances anytime now and score 3-4 goals. But then, I think Ten Hag is showing that he's starting to be he's a good coach, and he's starting to impact this United side. At least now they're creating chances. The only thing lacking for them is to finish off the chances. That's always a positive for any team. If your team can create about 6, 7, 8 chances, you'd rather blame the strikers or blame the striking force and say we need an out and out striker to bury the chances. But at least for now, your creative players are creating the chances. And I can safely say now, without Eriksen, this team, United team, is not the same. I think without Eriksen is a mainstay for that team. For them to have a brilliant season, I think Eriksen has to be fit throughout. Ten Hag has to manage him better now. I don't think Eriksen should be playing 90 minutes in and out. He has to manage him better because he is that key player. At the start of the season, yes, Rashford has been getting the goals, but then Eriksen has been that key player. Whenever United win a game, Eriksen has to play well. And without Eriksen, they've really struggled. Or if Ten Hag doesn't position Eriksen nicely in the pitch, you've seen United struggle. So I think Eriksen is a key player for the United, and United have to manage Eriksen very well. And then we quickly talk about the other fixtures, man. I think Southampton versus West Ham. I thought West Ham would win this match, a 1-0 draw. Although that the goal Southampton scored, West Ham felt it was a foul throw, really. And the referee was in the way of Bowen, and Southampton got the goal and scored. But then it is what it is, man, in the Premier League. And then, of course, Leicester versus Crystal Palace. I think for Palace, that was a good away point for them to get at Leicester. I think Vieira will be looking to build onto that point to get more results and really climb onto, because I expect them to finish in the top half of the table, man. And then from a Leicester's perspective, well, at least it wasn't a defeat. But again, they're still part of the top, in the bottom 3, really. They're still fighting relegation, which is so anti-Leicester-like. I mean, again, it's still yet to be seen what they'll do with Rodgers. But then, if the results continue the way they're continuing, I think at some point they will have to let him go. Then quickly, Wolves managed to defeat Nottingham Forest 1-0. And Fulham and Bournemouth played it was the highest scoring match of the week. A toll draw, which was quite something else, man. At some point, Fulham we 2 goals down, 1 goal down, and I mean, Bournemouth, I think Bournemouth have, if it wasn't for Arteta in this team, I think I would give the coach, the interim coach of Bournemouth, the manager of the season, I wait for October, man. The way his team, I think they haven't lost in 5-6 games. They're still grinding results. For me, I think if we're playing diplomatic about it, it deserves the coach of the month award, because everyone thought Bournemouth would be the wiping boys of the Premier League, but they're continuing to show that they can stick it with the big boys, and they can get points. I mean, they can slowly but surely climb the Premier League table. But nonetheless, man, that was the Premier League this game week 11, and we have midweek games in the Premier League. That's so. I think the biggest one of them all, of course, will be the Spurs versus Manchester United match. I think as a Chelsea fan, that's a key fixture for us, but we're not playing it. The sense that we need to win our game, and it's either we're cutting the points, Spurs is on us, the point gap Spurs is on us, or we are extending the point gap we have on Manchester United, which is a good thing. So, I mean, I'll definitely give you a preview of those games, and look at the key talking points we would expect from those matches, and of course the prediction for those games, for the midweek games, man. I think the first round of games is on Tuesday, and then we have a Wednesday and Thursday, and I think these games are the games which were missed when Queen Elizabeth passed on. So definitely we are looking forward to the Premier League games this midweek, man. It will be, I don't know if would it be game week 11 or 12, or it will just, I'll see. I'll definitely do my decision on that one and see. But nonetheless, man, with some brilliant Premier League results, we saw some massive games, and man, the Premier League is a gift that keeps on giving. We can't wait for more games this midweek. I definitely can't wait for them. And guys, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the videos. Subscribe to the channel. I'm your host, man. See you next time. This is Ronald. Bye.